Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are sitting inside of a 2015 Chevy Corvette C7. This is the last of the Corvettes to have the engine up front. Here's my first impressions of the car. Let's go. All right, so I have the key in my pocket, and this one is a push to start as long as you have the key inside the car. So we'll go ahead and press this. There you are. All right, so probably cough, and they give me quite a joke. And that is that I've never owned an American car. I've never driven a Corvette until the time I drove this Corvette to this spot here, and actually, let alone any American sports car, I've never driven up until this point. The only American cars I actually ever driven were the ones at work, like the work vans. They have to drive around campus, and that's it. And I must say, actually, let's hit the road. And by the way, right now I have it in tour mode. I'm just gonna keep it there right now until we get to my spot where I really can give it a nice little whirl. When the engine turns on, it gives you sort of this like left to right, right to left kind of shake, like little shimmy as you turn on the engine. And it kind of reminds me of my old grandfather's American pickup trucks. That's pretty funny. First of all, normally when I talk about my first impressions of cars that I've rented from Turo, which by the way, I rented this car from Turo, I don't own this car. And usually I don't really speak about like the impression I get like walking up to the car, but I must say with this car, right off the bat, like walking up to the car where I picked it up, it just had this like amazing look to it. And now, you know, you see these cars on the road a lot. Like I haven't seen a C8 on the road. I've seen a C8 at a car show back in November, San Francisco. There was a car show, and it wasn't, you know, it was a display from Chevy, and I believe the C8 that they had wasn't even like a full-on production C8. But my point is, I don't want to get too much into the C8, but for the C7, my point is that even though you see these cars on the road, and they're easy to spot because of that quad exhaust that it has, and just the look, the look of this is probably one of the best looking Corvettes in my opinion. Of course, you'd probably, in my opinion, you'd have to go back to some of the original Corvettes, and one of the first few Corvettes, in my opinion, to get something as nice as this, the C7. But again, my point is, even though you see this car often, more often than some other sport vehicles, and definitely more often than other Corvettes, it still has this, like when you're walking up to it because you're driving it and not just because you're passing by, it has this different feel. Like, especially compared to other cars or vehicles I've rented from Turo. Like, and I've rented a couple of Porsches. This is like, if you don't follow me on my channel, if you do, you already know. I've rented two Porsches, and I've also rented a Mercedes-Benz, and what else did a Jeep. But that's a whole different ballpark. And all of them have been like cool. You know, getting into a Porsche. I own a Porsche, so that may have something to do with it not being such a big, like, wow, or quite an impression. But this car, wow, like when you see it, and it's in probably my favorite color, the spec that the owner of the car has it at is just perfect. He has carbon fiber on it. It's, you know, the black and white, it's a panda color, it's the color I like. My Porsche actually is those colors. But yeah, that is something I don't think I've talked about in any of my first impressions before, is the feeling you get just walking up to this car. Now, once you're in the car, and I haven't put it in sports mode, by the way. I'm not going to put it in track mode because the owner said that it takes away some of the safety aspects of the vehicle. So I'm not going to put it in track mode. But in tour mode, first impression, driving it around, driving out of the owner's property and getting out on the street. And I took it on the freeway for just a tad bit. And then here through my favorite road in the Bay Area. The impression you get. And some of you have never ridden in a Corvette or driven a Corvette. You've got to agree that it looks wide, right? And you're probably thinking, well, when you drive it, does it actually feel as wide as it looks? And the answer is, yeah, it does. Now, as far as the driving feeling itself, it feels pretty much planted. It feels like easy to drive. It doesn't feel like anything that's gonna, scare the hell out of you. But at the same time, and I'll give an example, like there was a car off the road, not on the side of the road, I'm talking about off the road with his door open, and I still had this feeling like I needed to kind of move the Corvette off to the side a bit because it has this perception that it is wide. And again, I'm sure it is a wider vehicle. It's definitely wider than my Porsche, definitely wider than my Abarth. But I think the perception makes it feel a tad bit wider than it actually is, So there's that. And then there's something the owner of the vehicle kind of gave me a heads up on, is that it actually sits pretty low. So you do have to be careful. Certain type of roads. Right now I'm going over a train track. I've gone over some speed bumps. And like most vehicles, you do want to take them slow. But with this one in particular, because it is a little bit lower and it comes that way from the factory, it's something else you got to think about as well. So to be honest, when I was on the road getting to this road, I didn't want to be around other cars. I like it out here. Like, this road already is fun on its own, but you kind of get a sense of being safer in this car when you're not amongst other cars, And be honest, I haven't mashed on the gas on this car yet. I haven't pushed it, and it's part of that width, that riding height. The fact that you're in a big sports car, that gives you a sense of wanting to just kind of take it easy, especially if it's not your vehicle. If it is yours, you're probably careful as well, because it's, the damage will just be pretty bad and expensive. All right, so now we're getting a little bit twistier. I'm gonna see where this takes me. This is eco, weather, track, not putting it in track, sport. Okay. So it does sound a tad bit with many vehicles, and that uncertainty of the width of the vehicle is getting to me a little bit. Now, this is my first time taking this car on this road, so what I'm telling you right now is literally my first impression of the car. Now, it does feel planted, don't get me wrong, but if you're hitting up a more narrow road than normal, compared to a Porsche or my Abarth, which is tiny, you're probably gonna go slower in this car. Not because the car is slow, but because it kind of takes away a little bit of confidence compared to other cars. Oof. Now, before the windiness ends, I'm gonna take it down to manual mode. I'm gonna try these paddle shifters, and I don't know where okay, there's my gear indicator. Woo. Okay, second gear. All right, so that, like much, or like most, or like all, I should say, of the cars where I've used the paddle shifters, the upshifts are obviously never or rarely ever going to be something impressive. Here a little bit. Whoa. Okay, whoa, I did not expect, I should have expected that, but I do. Oh man. Okay, here goes the chance to downshift. We're down at 3. Oh, yeah. This car is giving me mixed feelings. The Corvette C7 is giving me mixed feelings. On the one hand, when you push this thing in, oh, Jesus, yeah, it reminds you you're in a Corvette. It lets you know. Oh man. Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna put it back in drive, but now the mixed feelings, the mixed emotions, the other emotions I'm feeling is I'm not impressed by the transmission. Whoa. Now correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you know this car more than I do, but I believe this is not a dual clutch transmission we're talking about here. So it's definitely not like PDK. Now I think I've had the luxury of trying out the best automatic transmission, which is the PDK in the Porsches, on 2 Boxsters and a 911. So I might be a little bit spoiled because of that. Now, my car, if you don't follow me on my channel, like my Abarth and my Boxster are both manual transmission. So I would have loved to try this in a manual transmission, because this is no PDK. This is no PDK for sure. So that's the mixed emotions I'm getting from this car right now, the mixed feelings. Whew. When you push it, oh my God, it just, it says, and I don't want to push it for too long because that's not how I am. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm pretty mellow. Now, if it was my car, it might be a different story. I'm very respectful of other people's cars. Just want to push it and let off. But that initial push is very impressive, and transmission is not so much. So I have to one day try out the manual transmission. I just have to. Okay, so a few things or a couple things before I wrap up for my first impression on the Corvette C7. And that is that I will be doing a tour of the car. That'll be on the next video. So if you're watching this new, just freshly out, the following day you will see a review, or not a review, a tour of this Corvette that I've rented from Turo. Then I'll probably be doing my typical beauty shot, just to give you overall look, not necessarily a detailed tour, but just some nice beauty shots of the vehicle as well. That'll probably be another video. We should give this a tiny bit of a push before I wrap up and give you kind of like, I wouldn't say my final verdict, but kind of my final first impression verdict of this Corvette C7. All right, let's give it a push here. Woo! That exhaust is beautiful. Quad exhaust, making beautiful sound. That engine, when it takes off, it takes off. Now that'll bring me to my kind of like wrapping it up on my first impressions, and that is that now the transmission just bolting and taking off is very impressive, but the shiftings, and that's either it's shifting on its own or me doing it with the paddle shifters, it's not impressive. It's not, but like, again, I've been spoiled. I've been spoiled with the PDK when I've rented other Porsches, or I'm sorry, other vehicles, other sports cars, but again, I have to try this in a manual transmission, and it's not enough where you should feel discouraged at all, because just because the Porsche has a better automatic transmission than the Corvette. If you're in the market for a Corvette, you may not even be thinking about a Porsche Cayman or a Boxster or 911 or anything like that. So yeah, there's that. The width, yes, it's wide, but it's not as wide as you think it is. But it is going to make you feel a little bit more cautious about it. And maybe that's a good thing, you know? Maybe it feeling wider than it is will help you from running into hitting something that you shouldn't be hitting anything, you know? So maybe that's a good thing. Does it feel planted to the road? Absolutely, it does. It's a sports car. It's doing its job. Visibility, I didn't talk about that earlier. Pretty much all good up until you turn around to look at your blind spots. But the mirrors on the side, for their size, actually, you could see a lot of your blind spots. So I would actually probably depend on the mirrors a little bit more than you would normally because of these pillars. One of the first things, or one of the firsts in any reaction or impression that I've given about any car that I've rented on Turo, and that is that this one impressed me right from the beginning. Right as I walked up to the car, I felt like this thing is beautiful, and that's something I don't think I've brought up before in any first reaction or impression of any vehicles that I've rented or taken out. So that says a lot about this car. I like this car, and I think I would like it even more in a manual transmission. But this, yeah, it's very nice. Now, if we want to go into the whole conversation about, you know, the C8, which is a different beast, how can I even give a comparison if I've never driven that car, right? But there's so many things that are different about it. This is the last one to come with the front engine versus the mid-engine that you're going to find in the C8. And this is also a first in the sense that it's the first one to carry that Stingray badge. First to get the Stingray badge in a long time, and the last to have a front engine. It looks beautiful, sounds great. Oh, and the price. Oh, I can't leave without saying the price. I saw some of these used for around $35,000. And meanwhile, some people are overpaying for a C8. But again, it's a whole different ballpark. So it all depends on what you want. But right now, if we're just talking about flat out sports car bargain, this is definitely there. This is definitely, you know, it might not check all the boxes for what you want if you're looking for something very particular, but if you're just looking for that sports car bargain, this has to be it. $35,000, and you could probably get it damn near close to this spec with the quad exhaust, maybe with the carbon fiber pieces, definitely in this color, which I think is the color you got to get it in. Oh yeah, this is definitely a sports car bargain. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up right now for the first impression video. Again, look out for at least 2 more videos with this car. If you like the video, go ahead, give that a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, I do this type of videos. I also do some vlog styles with my own cars and my motorcycle as well. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing and sharing with anyone that might be into this type of content. Please browse through my videos. Check out like how to rent a car on Turo. I have videos like that as well up on the channel. Yeah, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you own a C7, maybe you own C7 and a C8, or the C8 and not this one. Anyway, just go ahead, leave some comments. I'd love to hear what you had to say about this car and any other Corvette that you might have, or sports car in general. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.